Hello. So today we are going to be setting up an AtmosFX projection digital decoration solution and setting these up on Windows. There was not too much content available online for how to do this, so after a bunch of research, have put this together and put together a somewhat comprehensive and lengthy tutorial just to make sure to cover all of the small details. So it's about 7 steps to set everything up. So the first step is going to be getting your materials. I'll talk about that in a second. But at a high level, what we're going to be doing is putting some sort of a material. The Hallusion official fabric is quite expensive. And so we found and linked some Joann's fabric options that you can put, so that basically what you're trying to do is project from inside the house on a projector onto that fabric so that the projection can be seen outside. We're going to go through a method that is pretty reusable, which means you can kind of like put these hooks for Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, whatever holidays you want to have decorations up for. You can like clip these vacuum hooks on each window and then put fabric with grommets up there. And then it's pretty like set and forget, pretty easy. And then you can easily take them down as well. Alternatively, if you want to go much faster, what you can do is just cut the fabric and go through those steps, skip the hooks entirely, and just put masking tape to tape these to the window. A little uglier, a little more work to put up and take down, but it will get the job done. So the first step is going to be procuring your materials. So first, you need some hooks. You can use 3M or adhesive hooks if you don't mind putting those on the wall. We ended up using vacuum hooks because it put them straight on the window, easier, strong, and less mess and cleanup. The next is getting the fabric, which again we'll link. We use a Joann's fabric material. We also used a grommet tool, which we linked. Those are little holes that you can like hang fabric up on stuff on the hooks. And so the hooks, fabric, grommet tool, that'll handle, and a way to cut that. So you can use scissors for that, but we actually are going to use a rotary blade, which is usually used for quilting or cutting fabric in a straight line. You can use scissors, but your lines are going to be not straight. So that's for the fabric. The next for the materials is the actual projector setup. So there's a bunch of projectors, but effectively the thing you're looking for is something's bright enough. So at least 7,500 lumens. China drop ships a fair amount of these projectors. They go under different names. I'll link them in the description, but they're kind of all the same projector. A nice feature to have on the projector you pick up, which like between $60 and $80 per projector, and you need one projector per position, so per window. A nice feature to have is Bluetooth audio, where you can go straight from the projector to the Bluetooth speaker, so you can kind of like have scary Halloween sounds outside or Christmas sounds outside the house, etc., versus needing to have something like a Raspberry Pi or a laptop or something else playing it. So these, I would highly recommend these like $60 to $80 projectors you can get on Amazon in the US that play Bluetooth, that can play media off the USB device kind of like for free. So without any extra hardware. So the projector is going to be mounted. You can put it kind of like jerry-rigged on the floor or whatever, but I would recommend getting a super cheap tripod. Amazon sells ones for under $15. So mounting the projector to the tripod is going to be another step. And then you'll need a USB stick, a cheap one. You can grab whatever you have lying around to put your digital illusions on. You're going to need some digital illusions. So AtmosFX has the best ones. Honestly, just like pick them up. You can kind of like trial on them and see, or you can look on various other platforms like eBay and Etsy to get some deals. And then load them up on your USB drive, which we'll talk about. And then some just side tools you'll need. You'll need the measuring tape to measure the windows that you're going to put this on, and an iron if you want to kind of like straighten out the fabric. Again, you can skip the grommet and hooks if you would like to go the route of putting the fabric just tape it directly to the window. You can also skip it if you're planning on projecting directly onto a wall, and so you just need to do the projector setup. But again, this is rear illusion, so that's kind of like what we're going for. Some other optional things that we ended up using on the materials are a digital timer, like the little boxes that you'll see that were used for Christmas trees. The easiest way to use those is just like plug them into the outlet, plug the projector in there, and then set it up so that at least it powers down when it hits night. So you have to like remember to do that and save your projector battery life. An extension cord if you don't have a power outlet close enough to where you want to have your projector set up. And then painter's tape, you can use that again to put up the fabric directly or to just touch up corners where like maybe the fabric is sagging. And then optionally a Bluetooth speaker if you do want audio outside, which is highly recommended for Halloween decorations to get that spooky music outside. You can pair, again, the projector is linked directly via Bluetooth. And so that's it for the overview of the materials you'll need. I'll link all of these in the description below. Now, at a high level, I'm just going to talk about the steps that we're going to go through, and then we'll go through in the video and kind of like walk through each of the steps that we ended up doing. So again, first step is going to be procuring the correct materials that you need, which are all the ones we mentioned. So stuff to get the fabric on, projector setup, and that's about it. The second step is going to be getting those hooks installed on the window so you have something to hook to. The third step is going to be measuring and cutting your fabric. The fourth step is going to be adding those grommets to the fabric and actually mounting the fabric onto the hooks onto the window. At this point, your window's set up. The fifth is going to be setting up a USB drive. Not going to cover that in detail, but effectively you're just taking the illusions you want and putting them on the USB drive in whatever folder or structure you want. I'd recommend putting it on the root drive, so just like right on the USB drive, so that you can just kind of like autoplay them all from the same spot. So if you want multiple, or if you want one location to just be the workshop and Santa to be another window, just make sure they're all just on the root of the drive. The next step is setting up the projector itself, so putting it on the tripod, mounting it, making sure it covers the window location you want, focusing it, adjusting the keystone, and then pairing the Bluetooth speaker up if you want that. And then the last step is just going outside, checking it out, seeing if it works, modifying any corners or edges or anything that doesn't look right. So that's about it. So now let's jump into it. Okay, so this is the window setup. We've got one large vertical window that we want to cover with the Hallusion fabric from Joanne and have the end product look something like this so that we can project with a tripod set up over here and pointed at this window from a lower light so that it projects. That crease still needs to be ironed out, but that's the end result and what we're going for. So the first step is to get these hooks right here and get these hooks, which are pretty easily vacuum and suction cuppable. You can see you can put them on here and they hook in place. They're pretty sturdy, and position them so that they're able to retain the tension but won't pull too hard. And so here, place these in place pretty easily, put them in. And we're going to angle them downward at a corner angle so that, as you can see from this one that's already up, each one's of the suctions are going to retain some tension once we install the grommets on the fabric. So let's go ahead and install, using our stepladder, all 4 of these, including the ones on top, as we have done on the bottom. So you'll see we're installing these on top. And right there. Right, so now we have our hooks in place. Now we have to cut our fabric. So next up, we have to measure our window so that we can cut the fabric at the correct length and width so that it's taut but not too wide to spill over from the window. So what we will do is measure the tape measure from this corner of the window inside, leaving a little gap from where the hooks are, over to this end. And so we're at 44 inches. And then I've gone ahead and measured that top in a similar way, and that's at 92 inches. And then we will go over to our fabric cutting station, which is basically just this fabric. So I'll link in the description in the comments the fabric that we got from Joann's Fabrics. But you want something semi-translucent that's sheer, ideally sateen, that you can see through so the light for the rear projection will shine through. And that's also relatively thin and can be stretched taut. This is not too bad. It was sub $10 a square foot, or a linear yard maybe, at Joann's Fabric, so I'll link that over, and much cheaper than the official Illusion fabric. And so took it right off the spool here, split it in half, stretched it out. And another tool I wanted to show you that made things much easier is a rotary cutter like this. We'll link that in the description. Basically, the first pass, I used scissors and everything came out very not straight. But with the rotary tool, what you can do is kind of push this to click it out so the blade is engaged, this to disengage it for safety. And as you'll see, it will just, I'm putting this on a piece of cardboard so I don't cut into my floors. So just kind of push down. You can just make a nice clean cut, which is really nice, which makes things a lot easier. And so for this fabric, let's say to get it to 92, what we're going to do is fold the fabric in half a couple of times so it's easier, and then make a couple linear cuts. So let me, I'll fold that fabric and then get back to you. So now we have our fabric folded in half. We're gonna fold in half 2 times in order to make the cuts. You can do it at the full length, but it's just easier to fold it, less surface area to deal with. And so what we've done is folded in half lengthwise. You'll see that this cut was made with a rotary cutter earlier. And just for reference, this was made with scissors. And you can see how poorly frayed and not straight the edges are. So we're gonna clean this up with the rotary. And this is the height of the window. So again, this unfolded half is gonna be the full width and height of the window. So what we're gonna do is measure out 92 inches, which is the height of that window from the corners that we wanted to get to, approximately there, all the way down, over here. And then grab our handy dandy rotary cutter and cut along here. And you'll notice, again, we have cardboard down so we don't damage our floors. So you push this down to get the blade going, and you notice it rotates. And then we're just gonna carefully cut all the way across. All right. And again, it does not have to be perfect. Just be like a pizza cutter, cutting right through the fabric. So let's see if we made a clean enough cut. And you want to be careful not to, if you have any edges you didn't get completely to, don't pull the fabric off too much, because these threads, you want to clean them up with the cutter rather than pull at it, because it can make the fabric itself kind of pull off and bunch up. If you pull a straight thread, so like here, you clean that off. And clean that one off. Great. It's not perfect, but it does not need to be. Okay, so now we've got the length at 92, which is what we wanted. Now we're gonna fold it in half the other way and do the width. All right, so here we are. We have folded the fabric, unfolded it, and then folded it in the other direction. So hamburger style, for those of you who went to elementary school. And we are now looking at the width. And so the width, which is this way across of the fabric, is wider than what we need, which what we need is measured out here at 44 inches wide. So here's the width at 44. And so the objective here is to get a piece of fabric that's 44 by 92 inches in dimensions. And so we're gonna do the same thing here. and make sure our surface is safe. Get a rotary cutter out and cut around, maybe with a little bit of extra space, around there. And then go all the way across. Perfect. Pull this fabric out. And there we go. So when we open this up, we should have a 44 by 92 rectangle. We will double check our work. All right, so here is our finished rectangle. Now we are a little short. So we're at 91. Again, because we measured approximately, so maybe in the future would have made it a little bigger, but that should be okay. And then across, I think we're fine. Let's see. Yeah, across we have no problem over there at the end, and we're at about 47. So now we'll go into grommets and get this bad boy on the window. All right, so next up we are going to add grommets, which are these little guys, to the fabric so that we can hold the fabric taut in place and on these hooks and then mount them easily. So you've probably seen these on products, but you probably didn't realize how easy they are to do. So basically you just need this tool. It's about 15-20 bucks. It's pretty cheap on Amazon. And it comes with a bunch of these guys, which are basically pairs of the grommet. So they look like this. And so what you do, just to practice on a spare piece of fabric here, is you load up this part of the grommet on this side, and it's magnetic, so it kind of stays in place. And then the other one, and make sure to put the right side, so it's going to connect. So the open side towards the center, load it up there. Again, it's magnetic. And then you take your piece of fabric, so we're just going to practice so we don't mess it up on the actual piece of fabric. So let's say we want the hole or the grommet to be right in this corner, which is similar to what we're going to want to do otherwise. So we take the piece of fabric, place it between the grommet carefully, and then what we'll do, just press to crimp. So you press this down, and then there you go. Got that grommet right there. So this hopefully is firm enough. You can pull out this little piece of fabric, that's the hole inside that was cut out. And you're all set. So this is what we are going to do. Wasn't actually, there we go. This is what we're going to do on the main piece of fabric outside to hit the corner. All right, so here we are. Now we're going to do our grommets one at a time on the fabric so that we can start mounting it. So the next step here is we're going to remember the length of our fabric was little close close to 91 than the 92 we wanted, so we're going to try to get as much space as we can, because again this border is not going to show on the outside of the window. So we're going to place our bottom grommets first this one, then mount it, stretch it, mount the second grommet while it's mounted, then put those grommets on top, and then do the bottom ones. So let's start with the bottom one here. So let's say we need, we'll just do like the very corner here. So we'll put a grommet around here. You can mark it, but you can just go eyeball it as well if you want, or you can put a pin in here. Okay, so that width seems about right. And we've marked this piece around where we want the grommet to go with a pin right here. So let's go ahead and load up our, all right, got the top part there on the grommet kit, grommet tool, and the bottom down here. Looks good. All right, so we want to place it around there, clean as much of the height as we can. So let's see what we can get there. press. And there we go. Got a grommet in place. Looks good. So now what we're gonna do is put this one on the hook. Actually, this didn't press as well, so I'm going to press it again. All right, so we've got that grommet in there. Looks good. Just looped it right around our hook, just to have it in place. And then we're just gonna measure the other grommet on the other side. So I'll keep that there. Stretch. And we have a pin here on this side on approximately where we want this grommet to sit, maybe just a little to the left of that. You can see this. Just want it to hook around. And if you mess up, you can always put a second grommet in. So let's do that now. All right, so we've got our grommet in place. This guy's ready to go and loaded. So now we will put in our second corner grommet. Make sure it's really firm. And great, remove the pin. There we go, got our second grommet. Pull that fabric out if you want. And now, hopefully, both of these sides will be hooked in. Over here, and over here. So now what we're gonna do is take both of these actually and mount them on the top brackets so that we can see how it falls, and we can do the bottom ones separately. All right, so now we're up here and we have taken our fabric that we put our grommets on, laid one on that corner, got one on this corner, just hook it up there and nest it. Same on this side. I mean, you can do this really with any length or size of window. If you have a really wide or tall window, you can always add, this will probably iron out, you can always add another grommet here and a hook and kind of pull it up to the top. But for our purposes, we think this should be fine. And so I know we were a little worried about the height, but the height on the top looks fine. And then let's check out the width. Seems generally enough overlap so that you won't be able to see any part of the window. The illusion should cover the entire window. And then there's enough height down here. So what we're going to do is now repeat the process to get grommets on the bottom, and then we can clean up our work afterwards. All right, so now we're gonna mark our hole for the bottom grommet. So it looks like this is fine. You wanna make sure it's taut. There's a little bit of the output to pull this one outside a little bit when we're ready to go. But this one looks like around, say maybe there. So we wanna get a grommet in. Kind of will pull it up so that there's, again, nothing overlapping on this side. So let's get a grommet in there. All right. So we're gonna grommet on this side. Just going to slide it in. So I'll tuck that in place. Make sure it looks good up there. Looks pretty good. And then the final corner here. Just going to pull it with our hands to make sure it stays taut enough, not too tight. And then place another grommet right around here. All right, so we've got the grommet on the left side in, and going to put this one in, it seems like it might actually be a little too tight and bringing too much tension on that one. You kind of like feel it, and you don't really want these to pop off, and there's no reason for it anyway. So what we're going to do, that's why we use these suction hooks. Actually pretty easy to change. So let me just put this on to show you. It's just like unnecessarily pulling and kind of like tearing at this part of the fabric. So rather than causing too much tension on it, what we're going to do is unhook this and just put it a little further inside the window rather than wherever it was right in the corner. We clamp it in a diagonal position and hook it in. And that way, it's not too much tension, and it still looks pretty taut. Perfect. So let's evaluate. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. It really just has to cover the window. And yeah, it looks good. And so if you want, you can go over here on the left side and clean this excess up with the rotary cutter, kind of like down the edge. We'll see if that ends up affecting our illusion at all. It probably won't. So might as well not let perfect be the enemy of good and go on to the next step. All right, so next step is pretty simple. Usually when you get this fabric, there's a big kind of like fold down the middle, which when I experimented outside, it is pretty noticeable. So what we're gonna do is just get this, got our fabric out here on the ironing board, and we are just going to iron out this crease, and anything else that will, doesn't have to be, again, perfect. It's kind of the moral of the story here, but I'm just gonna do this and get it smooth. Okay, got most of the lines out, especially that center line. So things are looking pretty smooth. So now we're gonna get this back on the window, make sure everything's all right. So I got this back up and it looks nice and clean. And second window also looks quite clean. So next step is the projector setup. So this, what we're going to do is set up our USB flash drive that's plugged in here. I'll share the projector and tripod setup that I went with. But generally what you want to do is get a basic tripod, the Amazon. This is a slightly nicer one, but the Amazon basic tripod. That comes 52-inch, I believe. It's like 10 or 15 bucks. Perfectly sufficient for this use case. And you just gotta get this guy, mount your projector base to it, plug it in, and point it towards, again, we'll do this when it's dark outside and you can see it, but you basically point it from a lower vantage point upwards so that the image will project on that window. And then another setup point here is you have one of these mechanical timers. So while as of now you do have to manually turn on the projector setup every night, and we're working on something to automate that. To automate that, the turning it off portion is handled here via this manual timer. Again, a pretty cheap ad that you can also use for Christmas lights and anything else. Where these pins are depressed when you want the power to just go off. And so as you can see from here, it's currently about 2 p.m., which is indicated by the green light. And on the timer, these guys, you can push them in if you want the timer to only be on at certain hours. And so right now we have it at 5 p.m. This thing will supply power to the projector, and then at around 2:30 a.m. this thing will just turn off. So this handles the projector and the setup going off and not burning your lamp hours running when you don't want it to. But you do have to manually turn it on, which we'll do in a few hours when the sun sets. Night has fallen, so we can test out some of our projectors. So again, the setup here is a timer to turn off the power automatically This orange light indicates that there's power coming to the device, and this projector, I'll link it in the description, but this projector allows, it's pretty cheap. It's like between $60 and $80 on Amazon. They drop ship from China, so there's many model numbers. What we're gonna do is pop a pre-formatted USB drive in here that we'll look at, but it has AtmosFX. And you can get anything for free on YouTube and just put it on here. But those are generally the highest quality, and they come in a bunch of different options. Like this is mostly, we're gonna use the window vertical one and the TV vertical one. So as you can see, I've actually got two of these set up to respond to the same remote. So we are just going to fire this up. The first step is, once you fire it up, is to kind of align the projector so it's covering most of the window. Doesn't have to be perfect. But you really just want to make sure that there's blue, or like the screen, as you can see up here, kind of cuts off at the top or at the bottom, so we'll just bump it up a bit. So just move the projector up and cover more of the top. Maybe that was a little too much. That looks good. And then you can focus the ring by twisting the focus ring, as you can see here. And it will move both the horizontal keystone and focus it up a little bit. Looks pretty crisp, it's not gonna matter that much. And so again, the objective here is to make sure that most of the screen is just covered in blue. And then we're going to use a remote here and navigate the file structure and just find the videos that we put in here. So we're just going to go down to movies, hit OK. Again, all the files are already formatted and just kind of put in here on the home directory of this USB file. So hit USB and then just gonna click on one of these. And they should automatically play. This has audio, so maybe we can go to the next one. So you can hear some audio. You can also play the nice part about this particular projector is you can put a Bluetooth speaker outside and pair it directly to the projector and play some of the effects. So this looks pretty good here, but we'll just turn off the lights so you can see how this looks. It's pretty good. From here. And then let's just go and see how this looks in the front of the house. Again, as a reminder, you can put the audio to come from outside as well. So we'll check back in and see how it looks outside. Now we're outside the house, and you can kind of see how the effect looks. Looks pretty good. That screen you can tell has not been set up yet. We've also got a screen out there I'll turn on in the final product. But it's looking pretty good. You can see there's a little bit on the top that's dragging, so we can clean that up if you like. But otherwise, yeah, from a distance, someone walking by, looks pretty cool. So following up back inside, we notice the top is sagging a bit. We just taped it up, a little bit of tape, just to make sure it's straight. And then we will come back over here to the second projector and set that one up too. This one hasn't been focused yet. So let's focus this guy up so it's visibly clear. It's coming in from here. It's a little large. Maybe we'll push it up a little bit. Nope, now it's not filling the screen. Pretty good, it's a little tilted, so we can play around with that. So we'll just play around with this till it feels good. Right. So now we've got this angle and set up. generally fine. It's covering the screen. The next, we are going to go into the Bluetooth settings and pair that device. So we'll hit menu for this projector to go to the main menu. And then we will go over to settings. And then on the top, it's hard to see here, but you can see it. There's various modes, the picture mode, etc. So this one does have a Bluetooth setting. Your projector might not, but this allows us to pair a Bluetooth speaker, which we have right here. It's like a cheap one from Amazon, like 20, 30 bucks probably. And we'll do search Bluetooth, pair with this guy. Hopefully. And looks like we're paired. And so now if we go back to the menu, play a movie from our USB file drive that's plugged in here. So let's go to play. And then we can play kind of anything with audio. So let's pick something. Let's pick maybe one of these. Okay. Great. So now what we can do is take the speaker outside and see how it looks out there. Here we are outside. See Santa up there on the window. Workshop over here. Just making progress. Got that speaker down there. Great. So there you have it. So that is start to finish, a pretty extensive and comprehensive, going through each step, overview of setting up the AtmosFX digital decorations in a window using our replacement for Hallusion fabric. You can do the similar thing if you want to rear project something on the lawn itself or in any sort of Hallusion space. So hopefully this is helpful. Again, you can skip a lot of the steps on the hooks if you wanted to just tape the fabric directly to the window or whatever your space is. This seems like a much quicker on or off cleaner. There's more lead time to set up, but it seems much easier for us, which is what we do. Put it up for holidays, take it down pretty easily without having any sort of mess. Just put up the hooks, put up the fabric, set the projectors in place, turn it on every night. We are going to also explore using an IR blaster to turn on and auto off those projectors. Basically like proxying the remote via an IR blaster to send that signal so we don't have to manually turn it on every single time. The remotes, if they're in the same room and they're the exact same model of projector, which we recommend, you can just use one remote and blast the signal to all of them, so it makes things a little easier to set up. But that's a little more advanced than this tutorial, so feel free to ask in the comments below, or if you have any suggestions or anything you'd like to add or any questions on the process or products, please do let us know. Thank you very much, and hope you enjoyed. Happy holidays.